Coming up in this episode of PWD Allies podcast.
It was in those moments that that my life didn't flash before my eyes, but I had a lot to think about. Like, if I'm stepping out into eternity, like, where's my soul ended up?
PWD Allies, the best disability podcast in Canada. Starring your hosts, Brent Frain. And as always, his producer and editor, Neil Matheson.
On the podcast in just a few moments is Stephen and Julie Wagstaff, CEO of Swagability Non-Profit. We're going to now welcome Stephen. Julie is not joining us today. Stephen is located in New Brunswick, a place I haven't been to in decades. Be on my bucket list to go there. So, Stephen, you're the CEO of Swagability. Could you tell me what is Swagability? Where did the name come from? And your lived experience stories of just your lived experience journey through life. It's great to have you on the podcast, by the way. I know that the podcast has lots of lived experience stories that we talk about on a daily basis. And people.
And we're always on the lookout for other Canadians too, so this is great.
Yeah, I mean, having a fellow Canadian joining us on our podcast from way back from. Wow, we're on the west coast of Canada, and I'm in
Victoria. How much further apart can you get, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm in Victoria. Neil's in Newton and Surrey, and you're way out in New Brunswick. So coast to coast.
Yes, sir. Millimeter from falling into the ocean on the right-hand side, just where Newfoundland is. So, for starters, guys, I've listened to your show for quite a while, and for us, it's a privilege to join you. Love this show, and thought, can't go wrong by wearing Canadian plaid. So
I'm wearing my Vancouver Canucks too. So that
love that. So Canadian, good downhearted conversation.
Yeah,
and,
there you go.
Yeah, and then they got the Canadian flag with the wheelchair logo in there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then on the other side of the mug, we got the logo of the PWD Allies.
Well, we don't have as much swag as you do, though.
No,
Stephen,
we don't.
So let's start there. We might as well start there. Yeah. You're loaded with swag.
Here we go. Everyone's like, okay, what is the big story? It's got to be a great story that came from Swagability. And I let everyone down with how boring it is. When pre-accident, I'm a quadriplegic, C5 quad, from a diving accident at age 19. We can talk more about that in a few minutes, but before that, I played baseball at quite a high level, and a name being Stephen and Wagstaff. Baseball players always have a nickname for one another, right? So it was Swagstaff or Swagger, or you know what I mean? He swiped a base. Swag swiped another base. So Swags has always kind of been on the back burner. Okay. And Swagability was basically born out of it was a 7-month hospital stay. I had a bone infection, and I'm 30 years into I was 28 at that time, years into my injury. I pretty much run the gauntlet on antibiotics, and I'm pretty much resistant to 85% of them or more. So then I didn't know if I was coming out of hospital, and I was trying to think, well, what's my legacy going to be when I leave this world? What's Stephen Wagstaff's footprint or better tire tracks going to be when he leaves? And I thought, I want to have something that lasts far beyond kind words that are said at a funeral or that. I want to have a legacy that affects the next coming generation or people after me. And so I got thinking, what do I know? Like, I've been a pastor my whole life. And so my sermons might live on, and maybe they've affected someone. But for me, it was for the next family, the next individual, for the next husband and wife that walks through the darkest night of the soul when the whole world is swept out from underneath them. What do I have to offer them that can get them through their tough times? And I had lived experiences. Like breaking my neck at age 19, I've known quadriplegia for the last 30 plus years. I met a lovely lady that I had no idea. Marriage and relationship weren't even on my radar, because for the first 4 months, I had nothing below my shoulders and was just strapped into a laid back, or like a geriatric chair. And that's what life was. It was people doing everything for me. Met and was blessed to have a friend become my best friend, and then I married my best friend, and we've been husband and wife and full-time caregiver now for just over 26 years. And so
congratulations.
Thank you. But along the way, we would never have scripted the things. We knew quadriplegia was going to be something to deal with, and it's had its battles, but we were blessed. She got pregnant, and we had announced it. It was the Christmas miracle child that we weren't supposed to be able to have, and anyway, we've gone through the experience of losing a child, and then shortly after that, losing our parents at young ages, and then.
I have to say, sorry to interrupt you there, but your referral from Podmatch, and I think you're the third one now through Podmatch, and it's a really cool service. It's basically like a dating site, like I said, for podcasters. It's great. And when I was reading through your bio, it's just incredible to see the amount, like you said, you're a quadriplegic, and then you're an interabled couple, but your wife has been battling with breast cancer, and then you had a sister that passed away. You've had both your parents pass away. You've had a miscarriage, and then you had your hospital stay of 7 months where you're fighting a bone infection. I mean, it's just a whole laundry list of stuff, right? Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about and say for myself too, like my first wife was a woman in a wheelchair. She had arthrogryposis, so she was profoundly disabled her whole life. But having said that, she was also profoundly able. Like she was a school teacher for 17 years, elementary school teacher. So even with her disability, where she needed 24/7 care aids and even just help to raise her hand up to scratch her eyebrow and stuff like that. When we first hooked up, I remember one of the things she would tell me was she would say, because I already have a disability, and because you already have your disability, Neil, we both got our bad cards dealt out of the way. Like she kind of thought, well, God doesn't give you any more than you can handle. So now that I've got this bad disability out of the way, and you've got your bad disability out of the way, like almost like she had this idea that God was going to be kind to us from now on, kind of thing, right? And I kind of thought, well, I don't know if I believe that or not. She would start trying to convince me of it. But then of course she passed away from lupus. It's almost 13 years ago now.
Sorry.
So I just wanted to get your reflection on that, like what my wife said, and like I said, looking at your whole laundry list of things,
Yeah.
My take is that's a saying that you won't find anywhere in the scriptures, that God doesn't give you any more than You can
Yeah.
handle it. It's a text that's misquoted out of context. He actually, the full context is that he's talking about when tempted to sin, God doesn't tempt anyone. In fact, it's fallen man and their idea of not wanting to sin. And he said, wherever there is sin, whatever, there will always be a way of escape. I.e., there's nothing that overtakes man, that there isn't a way out from that. But often we look at that and go, "Oh, God won't give us any more than we can handle." Well, that's not a scriptural verse at all. But
Right.
what we do have is God's promise to be with us and never ever to leave us. His perfect and ideal plan was not illness, sickness, and whatever. That's the result of a fallen world that we'll never have to deal with when we're on the eternal side of where our bodies are. If you believe that, my faith is paramount in my life. I've spent a majority of it studying religions, and my relationship with God is what not keeps me going, but um, is what gives me purpose in getting up each day, because my desire is to, um, because of how much I've been blessed, is to be able to get up and find someone who I can pour myself into in my lived experiences of walking through those dark times, and offer them hope that, you know, their storms don't last forever. As much as you may seem like it is now, they don't last forever. And despite what you're going through, when I couldn't see clear of what my future was, and I couldn't see clear of what I was going through now, um, the only thing I had was looking back and to see his faithfulness in my life. And those are the things I clung to. When I didn't think there was going to be a tomorrow, tomorrow still came. And
Yeah.
despite it all, we still have the ability to, even when we're not trying, we influence people. We always do. And so my
Yeah.
goal in life is to help people.
Yeah, and that's one thing, Stephen, that I look at on a daily basis is, going through life's journeys, I call it, connecting people together and saying, like, what is on your mind? If it's good or bad, just vent and rant and rave. I get it out there, and never take things for granted. And I guess that was my takeaway from my losses. And life has its twists and turns for sure, Stephen. And as you know, and I just learned to appreciate everybody around me, and just don't take health as a second guess. We take the cards as we are dealt them, I suppose. And however, people can make choices in their life too that can alternate those cards. And I think God wants what's best for everybody. We don't know what is in the end game, but I think it's a learning puzzle.
We know that God wins in the end. That's
Yes, exactly. And life's a puzzle. And like one of my cousins told me just last year that to live the moment of time, like the now, not say, well, woulda, coulda, shoulda, didn't do. You can't change what was like in the past. You now have to focus on the now, and in the moment of now. And I'm glad that you mentioned like the moment of like where we are. And I guess that's kind of my takeaway of things is just to kind of just appreciate things and just move forward and try to build people up around you, and know that people care so much, and advocacy is so important, and bringing awareness to a lot of issues that we all come to challenge our lives and so many things, and how do we change things to make things better for people. And that's what the podcast is about, is try to make things better and get your voices out there saying what your lived experience stories are.
Well, the other thing that I've grown to appreciate is that God doesn't care about our comfort level. Like it's not about comfort. It's about He's after our souls, right? He's molding us for our souls. That's what He's after. And I have to say too that when I was an early Christian, the one book in the Bible that I could not make sense of was Job. And it wasn't until I lost my wife 12, 13 years ago that it finally made sense. Because I used to think, like, why would God play this chess game with the devil and use Job as a pawn? Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, why would God do that? And that book never made sense to me. It never did. And then when my wife died, everything just kind of clicked. And because there's that verse in there, right? Like the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And I got it. It just like it clicked. Yeah. And it's just one of those things, Stephen, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a deep, I mean, when you look at it at surface value without either living it or taking it in its full context, the book looks awful cruel, but the overarching picture is we know that God knew the beginning, and from the end, he's timeless. And so for Job, what would have been excruciating amount of suffering, and then on top of it, have friends come over and blame him for his own suffering.
Gaslighting.
Absolutely. Only to find out that in the end, God blessed Job 10 times fold over again. And then in eternity, whatever he lost in this present world, which is, guys, we all say it, man, boy, time goes by and hurry, doesn't it? But really, life is a vapor, here and gone. But eternity is timeless. So it's what we do with this blink of an eye time that we've got between the dash that's between those two dates on the tombstone. That dash, it represents your whole life. And so my desire is, as our tagline says, to make sure you thrive wherever life finds you.
For every moment, and just cherish every moment. And
disabled or abled.
Exactly.
Thriving. Yeah. That's not right. Surviving, but thriving, because you truly can. If you have breath in your lungs, you may not be able to speak, but you cannot forget there are people watching your reactions. There are people watching what you say, what you do. And so we have the gift of being able to influence others, even when we don't know how we're influencing it. And lived experiences, those things give us the best opportunity to speak into someone's life in a positive way. And so despite
that one.
despite how hard it is at the moment, I go, and this is what Julie and I both said, and it was profound when she said it. She's like, well, it was the same when I was 19. I could cry, and that works. Sometimes a great release. I can be angry and bitter. That serves no one any purpose. And myself, it doesn't serve any purpose. It makes me a miserable person. Or I can choose to take what I have, live with it, and see how can I benefit someone else from what I've got. And that was what stoked my fire. If I could speak to someone's life that was going through, didn't matter if it was not a spinal cord injury, but something else, be able to say, you know what? I thought that was never going to end for me. But now I look at it as a different platform, because it enables me to speak to this group of people with authority, as someone that's been through it. And then you become a trusted voice. And everyone has that. Everyone has that in their life. It's not just my injury, your illness, whatever, able-bodied or not. We all have a lived experience we've gone through that. God said, love your neighbor as yourself. That if we took more time building into one another, lifting one another up, opposed to tearing one another down, and learn to think about it. Someone asked me the other day about what's the church and what's the church doing wrong that you don't see a ministry like for disabled people. They don't know what to do. And I said, there's one word that I think churches, as a pastor, need to start and switch. We've always been doing things for people with disabilities. Let's have we'll do this for people with disabilities. We'll do this for. And I said, take the word for. Why don't we change it to with? do
Yeah.
things with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may not look pretty up front. Maybe it doesn't look like the great performance or whatever, but that's not what God's after.
Yeah.
People with disabilities have innate value. They have a spiritual gift. They have abilities to influence others in amazing ways. So rather than doing things for, do things with. And that's what I'd say to the world, whether it's employment, whether it's whatever. Don't do things don't get me wrong. We do need to have programs and things that help people out that, can't earn or whatever. So there's nothing wrong with programs, but I'm saying if the world looked at doing things with
Mm-hmm.
individuals with a disability on the same level,
On the
and
same
that
level. Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
much we can learn from one another.
Right.
So much we could do better.
Some people will say, well, it's things happen, but I think things happen in life for reasons. I look at sometimes there's coincidences, but I think those coincidences sometimes are meant to be of they're supposed to happen in a certain way. Some people would try to fight those things if you can relate to that. Like if you kind of perceive that a certain scenario is going to happen, and then you say, no, I don't want it to be that way. But if it's going to happen a certain way, it's going to happen a certain way.
I wrestled with that. I mean, people would be like, well, why, are you angry at God and whatever? I'm like, well, technically the day of the accident, I was the one that was being I was always the class clown. I mean, I
Yeah.
couldn't put anything together, but I was known for my athletics. So my accident, I'll give you to it a snippet of a show, so I don't waste much time on the show. But it was August 2nd, 1996, and we were heading up to youth group that night on a Friday. Monday, we were all starting college and things like that. And so it was our last Friday. We were heading up to church for the evening, but 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I went to pick up my friends. Well, they were just getting off work. So they went down to a river to have a swim, get cleaned up, whatever. And so I went down fully clothed, ready to go out the night. And I'm sitting here on a 30-degree day, sweating, sitting on the edge of the hill. And so being the funny guy I just got up fully dressed, shoes and all, and sprinted down a 60-foot dock full out as fast as I could. And I'd grown up on the water, so
Yeah.
I knew how to swim, dive, whatever. And I dove out, and I assumed they were treading water up to their neck level, but it turned out they were kneeling on a sandbar, and I didn't know that. So I thought they're up to neck deep. So I dove in thinking that, and there was only about 4 feet of water, and so instantly paralyzed. I tried to swim, but I couldn't move. And I remember the air had gone out of my lungs, and I still had enough knowledge to know that I have to hold my breath. And as I watched kind of the sand and the silt settle on the bottom, and I'm sure it was only a matter of 15 or 20 seconds before they came down the full length of the dock and got me. But that felt like an eternity. And it was in those moments that that my life didn't flash before my eyes, but I had a lot to think about. Like, if I'm stepping out into eternity, like, where's my soul ended up? I mean, I've been born in the church, but whatever. And it caused in those brief moments a lot of soul searching to say, I was not sure at that time where I would have gone. Anyway, long story short, they rolled me over, floated me in the water. And as I lay there and chaos was breaking out, there was a dinner cruise that had been going by and saw it, people screaming. Uh, I just remember it. But in that chaos, staring up into the sky, and they were floating me, I've never experienced it to this day. There was a peace that passed over me that I had never had in my life that was like, you're fine. You're going to be okay. And at that very same time, there's no drugs or alcohol involved. I remember thinking, I wonder how God can use whatever's going on now, because I've been talking to him a whole lot of time while I was under the water. But I wonder how he could use whatever's left of me. I don't know what's coming back and know it's not for him. But whatever it is, I'm going to give it to him. And from that day forward, I can't say I haven't had my anger, my doubts or whatever, but from that time forward, I have sought to live out what those 50 or 20 seconds where I wrestled with stepping into eternity. And I've tried to live out that peace that passed all understanding when I came upright and was floated, and to use whatever time God's given me to make the most of it and to try and positively influence those around me to deal with that same thought. You've got your whole life, yes, but it goes by awful quick, and every one of us is going to stand in that same position I was, where eternity is but a few seconds away.
Yeah.
And there'd been nothing up to 19 years of my life. What had I accomplished that I'm going to be able to offer to God on that day? And for me, it's been just that solid, like, okay, my life is his. What he asks of me, I'll do. When I try and do it my way, I find that I fail and spend a whole lot of effort trying to do it. And then it's just a matter of settling back and say, okay, God, bring me people you want me to talk to. Bring me to a spot, open up a point where I can reach people at. And following in his line, I will say it's not always easy, but it's the most fulfilling. Not always easy, but the most fulfilling.
Yeah, and let's jump off a little bit and talk more about your platform in depth,
Sure.
Because we kind of touched on it. You have a online store. You have a lot of cool stuff on your. I took a gander at it. So you got footwear. You've got accessible clothing with. You call it chairwear with you know, the what do you call it? Like magnetic buttons and things like that. And you've got bathroom aids. You've got adaptive household products and kitchen aids. The whole 9 yards, right? But beyond the store.
Yeah.
What other service, like you actually provide quite a bit of other services too. It's kind of a one-stop shop for all kinds of services. So just kind of give us a rundown of everything that you provide on your website there.
Here's the Close Notes versions for people that don't visit. What we offer, number one, is I don't want people who are always either end up in a disability. I don't want them to make the mistakes I've made. So when I find a product, when I find a service, where I find something that truly was beneficial to me, worked, and whatever, I want others to know about it. And the stuff that didn't work, I talk about that too, on some of our podcasts and things. But you'll find like assistive technology, adaptive products and services there. You'll find the ability to have free licensed counseling and life coaching. One thing that we haven't touched on, guys, is the outside of the disability for my wife as a full-time caregiver, what have you. Here's a statement that you can think about and maybe think about in another episode, but what mental health was 30 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, closet sickness, you don't let anyone know. There's a shame to it, stigma attached to it. There still is to some day, but it's much more widely talked about. Caregiver burnout is at that level, because who wants to speak about the level of resentment that just naturally grows over time if you feel unappreciated or just tired? You actually, there is a point where caregivers, when they face burnout, it is such a heart-wrenching thing, because they're outpouring of themselves. But if they reach a point of no inflow coming into them and they're just dried up, then they burn out, and there's guilt, there's anger, there's divorces, we near lost our marriage to it. But I'm so grateful that as I had to humble myself as a pastor to go to couples therapy. And I think everyone almost needs to go through therapy at some times, because it's a neutral ground to be able to share what's going through. And I find that for my wife, and now I have professional caregivers coming in, they are at their best when they're being poured into themselves. And so what we offer at Swagability is to come into a situation where there is caregiver burnout. We try to partner with professional agencies, and so we can offer some alleviation to that caregiver or that family. Go on a vacation. Give us 2 or 3 weeks of letting us have someone come in and care for them.
Mm-hmm.
Get some refreshment to your
Yeah.
soul.
Great
Exactly.
idea. Great idea.
Yeah,
Funding.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we need to care for caregivers because
100%.
everyone is going to either be a caregiver at their life or be cared for by a caregiver. Those are the
Absolutely.
stats. 1 in 5 right now.
My wife that I have now is a care aide. She's a Filipina care aide, and
Yes.
she's been doing it a long time. And it's
1
very
in 5.
stressful.
Yeah.
It's very
But-
stressful, and she works way too much. I always tell her, she's getting up there in age, and I always tell her, like, you got to be kinder to yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, so she's slowly learning to do that, but it's a lot of stress.
1 in 5 people, that's a huge number. 1 in 5 people are in a unpaid caregiving position, either for family or relative or whatever. I mean, you think about that, like 1 in every 5 people you see are caring for, and some are in the sandwich generation where they've still got kids. They're in the middle, and then they've got mom and dad on the other side too, right? So, caregivers, we need to spread the word that, and so we try to offer, on top of just offering the ability for them to get away and get a break and refreshing, we also offer access to Julie, who's been on both sides, like caring for a quad her whole life, and then understands when she went through her cancer, she was on the side of receiving care, so got just a snippet of what it's like to have to ask for someone to do something, and how much do I? It's just caregiving. They're special people. God love them. We need to treat them with respect, but they also need to be recognized as unsung heroes for what they do.
Oh yeah, exactly. 1 in 5. Wow, that's really
Unpaid.
Yeah, unpaid, and that's huge. And that goes to show, like, there's generational caregiving too. Like there's parents of parents, living in a household too, because they maybe they don't have access to going to a care facility. Maybe there's just, it's too expensive. Or there's not enough of care homes to go, like facilities for people to go to. So a lot of them are living at home, and then they have caregivers coming, and so, like, you have parents, and then of course they need care, and then their parents need care, and so it just goes down the line.
I say this just before we get off the topic of it. I would say this. I would say, please, if you're listening to this and you're putting something on, caregiving, it is best to have. I mean, I have a whole talk. It all starts with C's, but I will say this: have the conversation before the crisis. Have the conversation about what caregiving could look like in your life if your parents are getting up in age, whatever the situation is, because when it hits the emergency part where it's a phone call from the hospital and we don't have enough beds anymore, they need to come home, or mom's had a fall, now they broke their hip, who's going to do whatever. If the conversation can be had when there's no pressure and tension, people make much more wise decisions and can talk about sharing the load. When a caregiver ends up, just because of a vacuum, there's no one there but this couple left, and they haven't talked about, are the family members going to contribute financially to help this out a bit? I would just plead with people, have the conversation before the crisis comes. And the crisis doesn't mean, it can just mean your parents are getting older and you've never talked about it. Start the conversation with them. It's much easier to have now than it is when the time is all of a sudden there and we've just pushed the conversation off for too far. So, just a tip of advice.
One thing that I always say is being proactive and figuring out the game plan. And because you just don't know when the time will come, and the time will come eventually of when you will need or receive that assistance.
Well, it's interesting because I've kind of seen both sides. I've been on both sides. Like I said, my first wife had a disability. She was in a wheelchair, needed full-time care aides. And so and we were married for 10 years. So I was around care-aids for 10 years. And so I was exposed that way. And now I'm married to a care-aid as well. And what I can say is, it's a fine art, really, to be a really good care-aid, to know when to assert yourself and when to withdraw. Like we always, my parents would come over and they'd see, particularly the Filipina care-aids are particularly good at this. I think is that they'll come and do something, and then they'll retreat and go away. And my parents would come and then say, well, where'd your little ghost go? Your little ghost. She comes and then she goes away. Like knowing when to assert yourself and help a situation, but then know when to go away again, and respect that independence of the disabled couple or the disabled person, right? Yeah.
It almost sounds like a song, Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought it's kind of interesting to have that to see it on both sides, Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The just when to provide and when to know when to kind of push back and say, okay, a little bit of breather room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I only had a snip of it when my wife went through her 2 cancer surgeries. And I will tell you guys, I would much rather be in the bed on the other side, because there's not only the caregiving load, they do so much, but it's watching a loved one go through it. And my wife will say this to this day, it's not the work, Steve. It's seeing you in that condition that makes me so frustrated, because I can't fix the situation. The doctors are trying to get you healthy. We're trying to figure out that. And she's like, my anger isn't at you. My anger's just, my frustration comes because I can't fix you, and I want to, and I hate seeing you like that.
Yeah.
But I'm helpless. So it's a heavy load to carry, more than just the tasks. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be just really emotionally draining sometimes, but having just knowing Steve, having her in your life. I mean, loving, it sounds like a really loving lady. Just cherishes you so much.
I wish she could have been on this show, guys. She's quiet, but when she speaks, her words carry the weight of the world. And
that's great.
God has blessed me.
You know what? We've come to the end of the hour, Steve.
Wow!
But this is.
It'll have to be a 2.0, guys.
Yes.
Yeah,
it will.
This is a great conversation. Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely, we'll have to piggyback off of this onto the next episode when we have you on again with Julie.
Yeah,
absolutely. Check out our website, if I can say that.
Yeah, I'll put the website in the description when we post the video out. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
And the website, everybody, is just right down there.
Swagability.com. Have I got that right? So swagability.com.
And on any of the platforms, you'll find our podcast that we have, not to take away from this one. That's a nice thing in the podcasting world. I was in Orlando briefly at whatever. I found it's not competition. It's just trying to give people the right channel as to what they need to hear. And so this is a great show. I love how it works. Everyone gets to talk. It's great. I love this show, and that's why I stay to listen to it. But we offer a couple of ourselves on ours that, one's on caregiving, one's on disability stuff, and then there's other one on how to overcome adversity. So check us out on different platform, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you guys so much. You've been such an encouragement to me.
And thank you so much, Steve. It's a great pleasure having you joining us on the PWD Allies podcast here. And that's how I came about to be for getting this podcast, is bringing people together from all walks of life, of talking about their lived experience stories. And hearing your story today really shines a light on that. There's any possibility out there, is just be humble. Be humble, just be yourself, advocate for change, right?
Authenticity. Yeah.
You remember that song? I used to have a couple uncles that used to sing the song,
Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect
Oh, yes.
in every way.
I recognize that. Yes. Yeah. Boy, that goes back time.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great there for when
Yeah.
whoever edits your podcast, that one right there should start the show. You'll
Well,
have everyone.
I'm the editor, so
Neil's the editor. He'll doctor it up.
there you
There's
go.
a hook right there.
So
Well,
if you
thanks,
don't
everyone.
like the podcast once it's aired, Stephen, you know who to blame. It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to 2.0 though, guys. I appreciate
Yeah,
this so much.
this is great. This is great.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to PWD Allies podcast. Please like and subscribe and share the content. As always, if you're fortunate enough to help the podcast out, please reach out to the emails provided on the link. They're down below. And stay tuned to our next podcast coming up very soon. I hope you have a great day and look forward to having Steve and Julie joining us on again for 2.0 and then plus. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Cheers, everyone.